Hey, everybody, it's Scott Steen with winnersandwhiners.com, joined by Scott Reichel with another episode. It's the weekend edition of Today in Sports Betting. I love the name. Love the name. That's very cool. Thanks to Scott for coming up with that clever moniker. And that's what we're going to be known as from here on out. So today in sports betting, not much going on, but it is a little bit happening with the horse races today, Saturday. And Scott and I are going to talk about some of the AFC quarterback props. Pretty excited about that. Scott, what do you think? You ready for football yet? You ready for training camps, OTAs, all that stuff?
Well, I don't know how much of that's going to be actually happening, but I'm looking forward to it.
But almost none.
Yeah, I'd also like to thank you for giving me credit on the name when I had absolutely nothing to do with it. So thanks a lot.
Was that our producer / director / PR guy over at Winners and Winers?
Yes, I believe that was a behind-the-scenes move. So thank you for the credit on that. I did absolutely nothing. So
okay, well, truth be told, I came up with it all by myself. So
yes, that I did hear that somewhere. So yeah, that's
so.
Fine.
Within 2 minutes, we've discovered neither Scott nor I had anything to do with Today in Sports Betting. I do like the name, though. I think it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. I like the name as well, but I can't take credit for something that I didn't actually do. So
fair enough.
I appreciate
fair
it.
Enough. Well, I've got smart kids, and I take all the credit there. That's stupid. So.
Well, that's fair. I mean, I feel like, though, once you actually pay for college, I feel like you're kind of entitled to have that opinion. Because if you claim that college made them smarter and you're the one who paid for college, then technically you're responsible for them being smarter. So you might have a backdoor type of cover in that situation.
Yeah, literally none of that is true. I did not pay for college, and it did not make them smarter.
Okay, fair enough.
They were smart enough to pay for it on their own. They took out a few loans, had a lot of scholarships, man. My oldest went all the way through, and so yeah, they did okay. They did well on their own. But I told them when they were very young, you said there's 4 of you. By the time you're in college, it's going to cost $25,000 a year. I don't see $100,000 a year extra money in my budget. So,
well, unfortunately, I wasn't able to get a scholarship because I did not have a 42-inch vertical, despite popular belief. So I had to kind of figure out some ways around it.
All right, very good. And you went to UW there. He's an ex-Badger.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to think if we got any Big Ten quarterbacks. I was trying to segue into something. I guess we got Phillip Rivers, old Purdue guy there.
I hope we don't talk about any Wisconsin quarterbacks because I don't want to talk about Alex Hornibrook or anybody like that I had to actually watch in person for the last handful of years. That was a painful experience in itself.
Yeah, you missed out on Russell Wilson. You were a little behind him, I guess.
I mean, I was still following college football, so I remember when they were playing some of the games earlier in the year where they would drop like 60 or 70 points, and I'm looking over like Wisconsin. I thought they usually score like 25. Like
right.
What are we doing here? But then, yeah, got to college and I saw Joel Stave for a couple years, which was Joel Stave, so not really an entertaining time. Then you had Bart Houston in there, who wasn't good either. And then you had Alex Hornibrook in there, who wasn't good either. And, yeah, that's pretty much the bulk of my college career. So not the greatest quarterback play.
Now, see, that's a nice thing about, I was a Mizzou fan. I went to Mizzou. And, of course, my first year we had Phil Bradley, who was a great option quarterback, actually ended up playing in the Seattle Mariners system. He was a dual sport guy. And then, later it was kind of turned into quarterback U. We went from Chase Daniel to
you had Gabbert in there.
To Blaine Gabbert. And then we had Matty Mock, who was like the all-time leader in high school passing that didn't pan out, but he segued right into Drew Lock. So yeah, it all kind of worked out. So let's talk.
I can't believe you left out Kelly Bryant after all he did for your program last year.
What a big bag of nothing he turned out to be.
I wasn't surprised. The thing about what you have to compare his situation to what Jalen Hurts' situation was very similar in the sense that when Kelly Bryant was originally at Clemson and then Trevor Lawrence came around, that's kind of like what happened with Tua with Jalen Hurts and how he wasn't a starter on the team. Team was pretty successful, didn't win the championship, and then you end up bringing in this other guy who's just a much better quarterback. I mean, it's not even a discussion. And Jalen Hurts decides to stick around, be a good teammate, be whatever, and Kelly Bryant decides to abandon Clemson in the middle of the season. Wasn't exactly thrilled with that decision from a character perspective. And it also is worth mentioning that Kelly Bryant couldn't exactly throw the ball, which is kind of important for quarterbacks.
A little bit of a problem there.
I remember
I'll tell you what, though.
It was the first game you lost to Wyoming, I think, and I'm just like, all right, this is going to be a disaster.
That was awful. The season ended up being okay, ish. They played some decent games, but yeah, that loss to Wyoming was awful.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it is, that's a tough program there at Alabama. You think about Jalen Hurts, leads them to the national championship game, plays one bad half. You're done. That's it for you, buddy. You had your shot. You get one bad half of football, and it's all over. So very sorry. We'll see you on the Sooners.
I mean, it seemed like the right move at the time. At the same point, people were giving Saban so much props, saying, "Oh, how could you do this? I can't believe you brought in the true freshman." I'm like, they're down. What are they down? 3 possessions at halftime. You kind of got to try something. Like, what's the worst that could happen in the situation?
You're still going to lose.
Like, Hurts is going to lose confidence because he's down to like 17 in the no. You bring in the other guy and you hope it does something. I didn't really see what the big deal was with that move. Of course, nobody really expected it to work out, but now Tua and Trevor Lawrence in both cases are most likely going to be top 5 quarterbacks taken in the draft. Tua was 5. Lawrence is a huge betting favorite to be number 1 overall. So, needless to say, I think Dabo Swinney and Nick Saban, shockingly, knew what they were doing. Crazy. I know. People didn't see that coming.
Again, they choose the right quarterback. So, all right. So let's talk about our old Mizzou guy. Let's talk about Drew Lock over there at Denver. He's going to have he got 5 games under his belt now. He had a thumb injury that he suffered in preseason, and they kind of sat and watched the Joe Flacco experiment blow up on him as a big surprise. John Elway continued to be unable to get a quarterback there to play the position in Denver. I've got Drew Lock, 21.5 touchdown passes. You said you've got yardage on him at 3,350. Is that right? Or 3,300?
Yeah, 3,350 and a half.
3,350. You know what? I like all kinds of over with this kid. This is a guy that I got to watch, and I know I've told the story before. This is a team that was in our division. My son played 4 years of high school football, so I saw Drew Lock every single year. A couple of years we saw him twice because we had to face him in the playoffs. And this is a kid that has really matured as a quarterback. He learned a good skill set at Mizzou. He was very raw when he hit Mizzou. His throwing motion has become much better. His happy feet have kind of gone away. He's become much more mobile in the pocket. And I think he's ready to take that next step with the Denver Broncos. Now they did lose Emmanuel Sanders in midseason last year. They traded him to the Niners. But they did pick up Jerry Jeudy from Alabama. Certainly one of the top 3 receivers. Certainly could make a case he was the best receiver in that class. And, of course, he has another year of Cortland Sutton, and I think this is a receiver that is just going to get better. I've got Drew Lock over 21.5 touchdown passes and over 3,300 yards. Scott?
Well, I definitely agree about the touchdown passes. I think with the weapons they got, not to mention the fact that they also picked up KJ Hamler, wide receiver out of Penn State in the 2nd round, who I think is underrated. They also got your boy Alberto out of Missouri, who definitely will help out with Noah Fant in the tight end position. So I think that will definitely lead to some more red zone targets for both of them, which should bode well for Locke and his touchdown passes. The yards, I'm a little bit torn with, because even though Locke played 5 games with a relatively new playbook as a rookie and everything like that, he only averaged roughly 200 yards per game passing-wise. So, right. But if you think about it mathematically, 200 times 16 from a 16-game sample is going to get you roughly to 3,200 anyway. So with better weapons and with more experience with the playbook, I know they picked up Melvin Gordon in the backfield, who should take pretty much all of Royce Freeman's carries. So you should see Gordon and Phillip Lindsay get the ball a decent amount as a two-headed monster type of situation. But Denver, they improved the offensive line. Of course, Bowles is still their starting tackle, so you can only get so far. But at the end of the day, based on that percentage on where he was projected to go with roughly 3,200 last year, and now he has better knowledge and better weapons, I got only to the over on both as well. I think that he should finish somewhere around 3,500, give or take.
Yeah, and that's kind of the same kind of math I was using. He threw 7 touchdown passes in 5 games, 1.4 per game. Over 16-game season, that projects out to be 22.4. So you and I were kind of in the same ballpark there with extrapolating out. And I think he's only going to get better. I think that's second year from your rookie season as a quarterback. I think that's a huge jump as you tend to learn a lot more about defenses. Pat Mahomes came out at the end of last season and said in his second year in the NFL, he really didn't understand defenses. He was just kind of winging it downfield to the open guy. It wasn't until last season that young Patrick Mahomes actually figured out how to read defenses.
I'm out. So you're telling me that Patrick Mahomes is already the best quarterback in the league without knowing how to read defenses?
That's what I'm telling you. He threw for 50 touchdown passes and 5,000 yards and didn't understand how to read defenses.
I got a better question. Why are we playing the season? If you already have Mahomes who can just dominate without knowing what coverage he's looking at, I mean, that kind of reminds me of a Favre story back in the day when Favre came out and he was playing with the Packers early on and he was lighting up the league, and he had no idea what a nickel defense was.
Right.
He was just launching. I'm sure you know that story. He didn't know what a nickel defense was, and he was just like, I don't really care. I'm just gonna launch this thing. I'm like, okay, so you do you over there. But I guess that's kind of what Mahomes was doing, where some people are just so naturally gifted. You don't really – I can't say you don't need to know how to read defenses because, of course, as a quarterback, in order to be successful, you do. But some people are just significantly more talented than others. And I think Mahomes is pretty much in a ballpark all by himself. I don't think it's really a discussion.
I agree. If he was on – it's only because he plays for my hometown team that I'm slow to give him as many props as I probably normally would, just because I can't believe he really plays here. It's stunning. So it is always good to get an outsider's perspective. So, Scott, who else do you like? What else you got there in the AFC? Give me a lock.
Well, I was going to say.
I started with lock. You start with one.
Yeah, after a lock, I was going to say I feel like a good transition to make was what we just talked about in Patrick Mahomes. Okay. And I feel like at his current number of roughly 45, 50, I'm going to have to lean to the over on that one. Now, I know last year, technically, his stats weren't the most impressive, but that's also because he missed a couple of games due to a knee injury, and he even played in a couple games while he was not at 100%, which people noticed against the Colts, and even against Denver before he got injured, he wasn't at 100% either. Got injured at a half. He missed the Green Bay game. He wasn't healthy for a decent portion of the season before getting healthy and then leading his team to a Super Bowl championship. But he still threw for over 4,000 yards in just 14 games. And knowing Mahomes, I know they picked up Edwards-Helaire. At the end of the day, I think he's more of a pass catcher than a running back. I do agree that Helaire has the ability to run in the trenches, but he provides just such a threat out of the backfield catching the ball, and I think that definitely will help Mahomes out. Plus, I mean, you bring back pretty much the entire offense last year, which is good because most of the teams in today's NFL might have less OTAs and less practice time. So if you bring back the same exact system with the same offensive coordinator, which is shocking to say the least, because I thought he would have got a head coaching job. But you bring him back, you bring pretty much the entire offensive team back. I got to lean to the over. I think Mahomes could push for 5,000, and for that reason, I got to lean to the over on that one.
I'm with you. I don't know how you bet an under total with this kid. I had him at 45, 25 and a half, and yeah, it's basically like you were reading my notes. He threw for 40, 31 last year. He basically missed 2.5, 2 3/4 games. Just like you said, a couple of those games he got his ankle stepped on in the Indianapolis game and in the Raiders game. So he really played with a bum ankle the other 2 games. It wasn't right until he came back after the knee injury, and then everything had pretty much healed up. It's there's no way you can bet against this kid not having 4,500 yards. I don't know that he'll throw for 5,000. That's a ton, but 47, 4,800, that should be no problem. As long as he's saying,
I don't think it would shock you if he threw for 5,000. That's all I'm saying. I mean, the one thing you have to wonder, though, is the Chiefs are going to be so good. Are they going to potentially rest Mahomes later on in the year because they're going to be probably easily going to win the division? I mean, I know that some of the other teams improved. I think Denver got better. I'm not sure about the Raiders, but I think the Chargers potentially got better. Still don't like the Herbert pick. But I mean, I'd say Kansas City should run away with this division. I think they should win it pretty easily. But at the same point, I don't think they're going to end up having to rest Mahomes because I really think that they're going to be competing with Baltimore for home field throughout the playoffs in the AFC.
I agree.
So I think that should definitely help because Kansas City knows that Baltimore is the second best team in the AFC. I think if you're really going to look at everything, you have Kansas City up here, Baltimore probably here, and then every other team is probably down here. because New England's nowhere near where they used to be. So based on
Right.
that, I think you're pretty much going to be looking at a 2-horse race fighting for whoever's going to get home field, which should cause Mahomes to play an entire season.
Yeah, it's hard really to look at any other team in the AFC, and the Chiefs are unbelievable in this day and age. It's like they're like a good college program. They brought back 20 of 22 starters from the Super Bowl champion. To me, that is unheard of in this era of free agency. So, yeah, I think you and I both agree that we like that Kansas City team quite a bit. I think they've even gotten a little better on defense. So we'll see how all that plays out. Hey, let's talk about the up-and-coming hotshot rookie. I've got an eye on Joe Burrow. They've got his number at 3,800.5 is what they had on PointsBet. Scott, did you find a Joe Burrow number? Did you like him a lot?
I actually talked about him. I talked about him during the rookie props video that I made a couple of days ago. I said for Burrow, I didn't have any opinion on the yards because I wasn't really sure what to expect from a true rookie with a new system, all that stuff. But according to reports, he apparently already knows the playbook pretty well. The perks of being the number 1 overall pick.
Right.
So he could probably ship you some reading material well in advance so you can get a head start. I do like the touchdown passes over, though. I'm a bigger fan of the touchdown passes over. The reason why I'm against the yards is because I'm not sure with a rookie quarterback if they're going to try to ease him in and try to give the ball to Mixon roughly 20-something times a game to try to help him get acclimated to the system. But in the red zone and with the receivers, I actually really like the receiving core. And even though it might not be the most, I'd say, well-known guys besides A.J. Green, Tyler Boyd's pretty good. And they also just picked up T. Higgins in the second round of the NFL draft. That's a pretty good 3-headed, wide receiver core there. So for that reason, I think this total for touchdown passes on Burrow is a little low. I think he should throw for maybe around 25 or so, especially since they cut Dalton. He's pretty much a lock to start every game in the season, barring injury. So for that reason, I think with reps alone and the fact that Cincinnati is going to be trailing by double digits probably in the fourth quarter of a decent amount of these games, I'd probably have to lean to the over in touchdown passes. And yards, I'm personally going to pass, but I would probably have to lean to the over, but I'm more confident with the touchdown passes.
Now, see, and I'm the other way. I don't know how they're going to do when the field contracts there inside the 20, inside the 30. But I like the yards, and mainly because you touched on it. This is a team that is going to be behind a lot. And they certainly have a much better receiving core than they do a running back core. I like T. Higgins. I think he could be one of the sleepers of the draft, especially a non-first rounder. I really like what he brings to the table. A.J. Green is allegedly healthy. And this is a high number on Joe Burrow. 3,800 is the number, 3,800.5.
That's why I passed on the yards, that I was more confident with touchdown passes.
I get that. I like the over. I'm going to boldly say that young Master Burrow will be able to throw the ball consistently. I think he will have to throw the ball consistently to put yards in the bank for this team, points on the board. I like Joe Burrow. Even though it is a tall number, probably not one of my favorite picks, but I do like, as far as that rookie pick goes, I think he is the pick to click there with the rookies. I'll take him in a lean 3,800.5 yards.
Yeah.
Over.
Well, a separate question about Burrow. I mentioned this on my award show that I did a couple days ago. That's actually going to be uploaded on the channel tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. But I talked about how I thought Burrow was, I don't want to say a lock, but he's pretty much a lock to win offensive rookie of the year. Is there really anybody that you think could stand in his way? I think we can agree that most awards nowadays in the NFL are pretty much exclusively quarterback awards.
Yes.
And I think he's the only rookie quarterback who's going to be starting week 1. So
it would have to take a combination of the quarterbacks underachieving and a running back or possibly a wide receiver really standing out for that not to be the case. But I would say
going to be starting at quarterback. Herbert's probably going to be a backup, at least early on, to Tyrod Taylor. And then you also have Tua, who I don't see how he's going to start because the Dolphins brought back Fitzpatrick, and I don't know why you'd bring back Fitzpatrick if you weren't going to actually use him.
And he's a prohibitive favorite to start the first game. He's minus 550 to get the first start is Ryan.
Herbert, I believe, is plus 300 to start week 1. So Burrow's pretty much uncontested from a quarterback perspective. And I understand that some people might love the running back and either Hilaire or maybe a Swift or somebody like that. I think last year proved everything you need to know about where the committee stands with regard to Offensive Rookie of the Year. People thought Josh Jacobs should have won it. You also had a A.J. Brown performance out of Tennessee. I had money on Murray midway through the season, and Murray, even though he ended up getting injured, he missed a game or so, and Jacobs missed a game or two. You can make a serious argument that Kyler Murray shouldn't have won Offensive Rookie of the Year, and he still won, according to the AP voters, by a decent margin. These people are biased towards quarterbacks. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, no question. MVP, any kind of offensive award is pretty much a quarterback award now. I completely agree with that.
Based on that, I think Burrow, even though he is the favorite, I actually think that he probably should be somewhere in the plus 100s. I think plus 200, plus 230. I still think that's too high. I think that should be somewhere in the plus 100 something range, maybe plus 175. Give or take, he's the only quarterback who's in the running.
Yeah, and what is he? He's plus 250, right? Plus 250, 230, something like that?
It varies from roughly plus 230 to plus 250. Some books are giving promo deals of like plus 300 or more, but of course they're giving you like a $50 limit on there, so there's not really a point. But I don't know. I just think that number's still too high. There's no other quarterbacks who are going to be starting all 16 games, so Burrow has a massive head start on everyone else. But
you're right.
That's my thoughts.
You're absolutely right. All right. Moving on, give me. Sorry, you got any unders, Scott? You got anybody that you don't like to hit their total?
Yeah, I was actually going to mention somebody right now. It's a little bit dangerous, and it's a little bit unpredictable. So I don't know if I'd play it myself. But Big Ben under 4,000 and a half at DraftKings. I don't know what number you have over there at PointsBet, but
I've got 40-25 and a half, so very close. Yeah,
I'll lean to the under there. I know that Big Ben led the league in passing a couple of years ago. He's coming off a massive surgery with his throwing hand. He's also had a history of injuries. Big Ben, even though people think he might be durable because he's such a huge human being, he's not. He's missed a ton of games over the course of his career. It seemed like Charlie Batch back in the day was starting at least 3 games a year for about 5 straight years. It's just one of those things.
Charlie Batch.
But you know he was going to be starting at least 2 starts a game. It was just a tradition in Pittsburgh. Of course, it hasn't been as bad lately, but Big Ben, off of massive arm surgery and off of a history of being injured, and now he's also getting up there in age. It's kind of the same reason why I like the under for Pittsburgh's team total for their wins. It's just too much uncertainty there. If Connor can stay healthy, this team's going to run the ball. And I know that they ended up addressing some wide receiver issues during the offseason. You're still a massive drop-off between Juju Smith and everybody else. So, for me, I'm going to actually lean to the under. I think Big Ben could go over if this team struggles, but this team is built on their defense. I think they're going to run the ball more. I think they're going to try to play time possession football and play a very early 2000s Baltimore Ravens type of style, where they're just going to run the ball a lot and just rely on field position and their elite defense and try to win low-scoring games. I feel like that's the recipe for success for this team. And I think Big Ben's going to get injured at some point. So for me, I'm not going to bet it personally. I feel more confident in the under than the over.
Well, and I'll throw in another one there. Before he got hurt, he wasn't very good last year. He looked awful.
Mm-hmm.
So now he's got to come back and not just be the level that he was last year, but he has to be the level that he was 2 or 3 years ago.
And that was with Antonio Brown. So that's
with Antonio Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster on the other side. So that does seem unlikely. Here's the difference between Scott. I don't really like James Conner. I don't think he is an every down back. I think he's a good change of pace back. I think he's a good thunder. But they don't have any lightning in that backfield, and I just don't think James Conner is quite good enough or durable enough to carry that team on his back for the rushing. Having said that, I have even less faith in Ben Roethlisberger to come back from injury and be even a shadow of his former self. I like the under there. I think this is going to be a team that struggles mightily on offense.
Yeah, I mean, one thing just about Connor is that when healthy, I think we can agree that Mike Tomlin absolutely loves him. It seems like every time Connor's actually healthy, Tomlin goes out of his way to feed him the rock until he gets injured by roughly week 5. And then they go 5 wide. Big Ben has to launch the ball around. I think Connor, when healthy, is actually pretty good. The issue is that I have no faith in him actually staying healthy.
Do you
I mean,
think part of that is Tomlin's desire to prove that getting rid of Le'Veon Bell was a good move?
possible. I mean, Connor also has a great story and how he overcame cancer in college, and he's got a great story with that. So I think everyone's rooting for Connor to do well. The only
Right.
issue is that his legs are basically just made of glass. He just can't stay healthy, and you have to try to find a way to keep him healthy, which is almost impossible for running backs when they're guaranteed to get, I don't know, put on the bottom of a pile at least 6 times a game. So I think that's a problem. But at least early on, I don't see Tomlin taking the reins off of Connor. I think he's pretty much going to run him into the ground as he does normally and pray that he stays healthy. Will that happen? Probably not. I think Benny Snell Jr. will probably start a couple of games during the course of the season. But I do believe that Big Ben off a serious injury, I think Tomlin might try to lean more to the ground game to keep Big Ben from throwing the ball 35, 40-plus times a game.
I think there's a possibility that Ben Roethlisberger gets eased out at midseason if they need a little spark. I think
The problem is for who? That's the problem. They got no backup quarterbacks on the roster who are worth a damn.
They have.
They got Mason Rudolph.
Yeah, that's Mason Rudolph from Oklahoma State kid, right?
I'm just saying, you got Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges. They both started pretty much every game last year, and I think we saw how that went. Not exactly the greatest backup quarterback.
I don't
know. I think if you really wanted to, you could have gone after a veteran. There were some rumors earlier in the offseason that they would potentially go after Winston as a backup role. Maybe they can go for Cam as a backup role, but Cam's not going to want to take backup money. I told you I thought Dalton was going to go to New England, and that actually looks really good right now. So that has progressed pretty well. I feel like they need a backup quarterback because I just don't think Rudolph and Duck Hodges are right if Big Ben gets injured again. I feel like they should have maybe even drafted a quarterback.
Okay. Well, we can agree to disagree there, my friend. I think Mason Rudolph has an NFL future. So
I mean, I think he might have an NFL future as a clipboard holder. I mean, Charlie Whitehurst had an NFL future, and he never left the sideline. So I think that there was a couple ways to describe an NFL future. He was okay in spurts last year, but the numbers he put up at Oklahoma State made people think he was going to be so much better than he actually is. He's extremely limited. That's how I'll phrase it. He's very limited, in my opinion. But agree to disagree.
Well, mark this tape. We're gonna see how that goes.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, so let's talk about. Can we talk about your boy up there at Gang Green?
Yeah, we can talk about whatever we want.
All right. 3555.5 is the number that I have. What do you have?
I have 35.59 and a half. Okay. I don't know why they didn't just round it up to 60, but they got 59, so whatever.
All right. So they lose Robbie Anderson. They add Denzel Mims. This kid, I don't think you got a quarterback there, Scott. I like all kinds of under on this Sam Darnold. I'm sorry.
I actually don't know what to think about Darnold because out of USC, I actually didn't like him. I thought he was going to be a bust. I watched him play. It seemed like he panicked in the pocket. He always made one or two stupid decisions a game, and that has translated into the NFL. I'll give him a little bit of a pass, though, because apparently he was seeing ghosts. So, I got to be a little bit generous towards him. But,
man.
Yes, that's not exactly the greatest soundbite that you want to hear from your franchise potential quarterback in the middle of a Monday Night Football game while you're trailing by 20-something at home. But either or, I actually kind of like Darnold. He's grown on me. I actually think he has some talent, and he actually looked pretty good last year with the Jets, all things considered. He missed a couple of games with mono, and he also looked really good down the stretch. And the Jets actually were somewhat decent record-wise, considering the fact that Luke Falk had to start roughly 3 games for them, and he was one of the worst quarterbacks I've ever seen play in the NFL. Darnold, I mean, at roughly 35-60, he threw for over 3,000 last year, and he missed 3 games. I kind of have to lean to the over here. I mean, especially after the Jets pretty much got an entirely new offensive line because they realized how awful their offensive line was for the last couple of years, which I've been preaching for replacements. You signed roughly 4 free agent offensive linemen, and you drafted Becton at the offensive tackle spot with the 11th pick in the draft. The receivers aren't great. I'm not going to be willing. I'm going to admit that they replaced Robbie Anderson with Perryman, who I do think is a downgrade. but Perriman still has the ability to stretch the field. I mean, last year he threw for 3,000. He still missed a couple games with mono. I'm actually going to lean to the over. I wouldn't surprise me to see him throw for 3,800 or so, especially if the Jets are trailing in some of these big games. I believe you said they play Kansas City this year. Is that
I think we do have the AFC East, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Yes, so the Jets will be down by roughly 28 at halftime. So I think Darnold can probably throw for every single down of the second half. I'm going to take the over there. I actually think Darnold can throw for 3,800.
Man, look at us having a little difference of having some good quality TV here, man. Whatever format you call this, a video, I suppose. It's I like it. It's because I've got a couple of problems with Darnold. Number one, I'm not sure that just plugging in brand new offensive linemen is necessarily the answer. I'm not convinced Becton is going to be your guy in pass coverage. He's a road grader when it comes to running the ball. There's some indication with advanced metrics that he struggled there at Louisville in passing situations, in pass protection. So I'm just not convinced that Becton is going to be your guy there at left tackle. And I just don't know that this kid can stay healthy. He does show flashes of talent, and there is some skills there. I don't know if their defenses are just going to beat those out of him before he has a chance to shine and stop seeing ghosts. And without Robbie Anderson, I just don't see it. I think Perriman is definitely a downgrade. I do like Mims, the kid out of Baylor. I think he's going to be a good addition, but the knock on him is he's not a great route runner yet, and that's not what you need to help out Sam Darnold. I'm going to fade your brother. I'm going to go under. I'll take your total. I'll go under 35.59 as far as slinging Sammy Darnold goes there. So let's stay on the East Coast and take a look at your reigning MVP. Speaking of Louisville, Lamar Jackson had a unbelievable season last year. Certainly, when it came to a very odd season, he ran for 1,200 yards and did not throw for 3,000 yards, but threw for 36 touchdown passes. So, Scott, what do you make of Lamar Jackson and his potential this year?
Well, I know Jackson last year, at least according to Fox Sports, threw for 3,100 yards. So I believe he did.
Oh, that's right. 31. I'm sorry. You're right. He did get over 3,000. It was kind of touch and go there. Yeah.
Well, it also was worth mentioning that he did not play in one of the games, as Robert Griffin III actually started against Pittsburgh, so he only played in 15 games.
That's correct.
I actually like the over here. And the main reason why is I think Baltimore's offense last year caught everyone off guard during the regular season with the rushing attack and everything like that. It kind of reminds me in a way of what the Redskins and some of these other teams were doing, like Kaepernick when he was with the 49ers with the read option system, and how teams started to figure it out because they were just selling out on the run all the time. I actually think that's what teams are going to do. I think teams against Baltimore are pretty much going to stack the box and force Lamar Jackson to beat them with his arm. So I actually think that if you plan on beating Baltimore, as Tennessee, I can't really say Tennessee fully showed it because Lamar ended up rushing for over 100 yards. But I think you can agree Lamar is pretty much a less of a threat when he's stuck in the pocket as opposed to running outside the numbers. I think we can agree on that. And for that reason, I'm going to take the over because I actually think that teams are going to sell out more on the run and force Lamar Jackson to beat him with his arm, which should lead to more passing yards. And I'm a little bit skeptical of a star quarterback in this league who is the franchise quarterback who could potentially lead the team to a Super Bowl, running for over 1,000-something yards and taking hits for 2 straight seasons. So I'm going to link to the over passing yards.
You touched on it. You stole my thunder there at the last minute. That was exactly the point that I was going to make. By the way, the yardage total we've got for Lamar Jackson, 32.25.5. I don't know what you have there at DraftKings.
I have 32.50.
Okay. So we're right in the mid 3200s. And you know what? I just don't think they can run this kid. He had 176 carries last season, Scott, and that is just not a recipe for having your franchise quarterback hold up at all. You know, they're gonna have to pay him probably after this season. And I think Harbaugh's smart enough to know that they cannot continue because it just takes one shot. It just takes one shot at the knees. Look at Jimmy Garoppolo the year before against the Kansas City Chiefs as he was struggling to get that extra yard of the sideline instead of going out of bounds. He decided to take the hit. Boom, knees shot for the entire season. There goes the year. So I think that they're going to be smart with Lamar Jackson. Plus, that is a really low total. Like you said, he did creep over 3,000 last year, 32.25. I think that's a gimme. I think that's one of my favorite plays on the board. They added J.K. Dobbins, decent pass catcher out of the backfield, but they added a kid I really like out of Texas in the third round. This Duvernay. I think he was underrated. He kind of flew under the radar because this was sort of the year of the wide receiver. But any other year, strong possibility he is a high second or maybe even a late first round pick, depending on how things go. I really like him. I think he's going to add a lot to the passing game. I also like the over the pass and the over touchdown totals for Lamar Jackson. No, I don't think he throws 36 again. That was obviously a statistical anomaly, throwing for just 3,100 yards and 36 touchdowns. However, they have set the total again very low for him with 26.5. I think he can get there. I like Lamar Jackson to calm down. I don't know I haven't seen a rushing total on him, but I think the rushing total probably going to be closer to maybe 600-700 yards, something more in the Kyler Murray range.
Oh, for Jackson, the rushing yards, the rushing yards is 1,000.
Is it 1,000?
It's 1,000. I believe it's 900. I believe it's 999.5.
No way he rushes 1,000 yards back to back.
I agree, but I believe that's what the total is according to most books.
Okay, so I could do a nice little future parlay with Lamar Jackson, take him over in the yardage and under in the rushing. So
yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I'm not really sure how many books will let you do it because technically they're correlated and one won't really exist without the other. But you can hope to dream. But I don't know. I agree though. I definitely feel better about taking Lamar Jackson passing yards over as opposed to Lamar Jackson rushing yards under, because there's still a chance that Lamar can easily just say screw it and just run for another 1,100. I'm a little bit skeptical of that, but at the same point, I think there's a better chance of both of those numbers going over than I'd say the passing yards going under. So for that reason, I would lean to the passing yards more for the over.
Okay.
I agree. That's one of my favorite plays on the board, though.
Yeah, I think J.K. Dobbins is going to take a lot of the pressure off Lamar Jackson. I think J.K. Dobbins and Mark Ingram are going to be a weapon, and I think that is going to take some of the rushing pressure off of Lamar Jackson. Sure, he's still going to get his scramble yards, probably have 4 or 5 designed rushes per game.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think plus they're not like you touched on, they're not going to surprise as many people. They're going to be stacking the box, and they're going to be looking for they're going to put a spy on Jackson every game, which I'm sure they were doing already, but I don't think he's going to sneak up on many people this season.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one.
Anything else you like?
Yes, this number's a bit low, but personally, I'm leaning towards the under on Josh Allen at 3,300.5. If you look at his numbers last year, even though that total sounds very low, Allen only threw for roughly 3,000 yards last year, and he played every game. So there wasn't any injuries, there wasn't any whatever. Buffalo, the weather's going to be terrible late in the year. You already know it, assuming that they're going to be playing in Buffalo. And I don't really trust quarterbacks throwing for more than, 150 yards in the snow, maybe 200 tops. Plus, Allen, I know they got Stephon Diggs, who's going to help out the receiving core. He's not a Josh Allen guy. And I know that some people are, and they claim, well, he led them to the playoffs, and they were up against the Texans. I mean, we're going to ignore the fact he ran backwards 30 yards on 4th down. He tried to lateral the ball in the first play of the drive, potentially to tie the game, which, that was a very fun experience. But overall, I just don't think he's accurate enough with the ball. I think Josh Allen, even though he has tremendous arm strength, besides Mahomes and probably Stafford and maybe Aaron Rodgers, I think Josh Allen probably has a top 5 arm in the league just based on arm strength alone. The problem is that he's just not accurate at all with pretty much any of his throws downfield, which is a serious problem. Allen's very mobile. I think he's going to keep running the ball in situations. I think the fact that he can run is going to hurt his passing yards total. I think he should finish somewhere around 3,100, 3,200, give or take. So I think this will be close. But 3,300, I think, is a little bit too high. I'm going to lean to the under for that reason.
And anytime you're looking at take an under on a quarterback, you have to factor in what kind of quarterback they are and what the likelihood of them being injured is. And you touched on it. You kind of hit the nail on the head there with the fact that he is a mobile quarterback. He likes to run. I would guess he was probably third or fourth in the NFL in rushing yards for quarterbacks after Murray and Lamar Jackson. Is that
That would be my guess. He might have actually been more than Murray. I'm not even sure, but probably somewhere around there. Definitely top 5.
Because he doesn't fit the prototypical 6 foot fast quarterback like Lamar Jackson, like Kyler Murray. He's a big tall country.
He's a 6'5" truck who can just run.
Right. Exactly. He's a fullback wearing a quarterback's uniform basically. So, but you always have that danger of him, even if he doesn't have a season-ending injury, always banged up. Nicks and the bumps and the bruises and the nicks that are going to happen over the course of a 16-game season. He's putting himself out there even more. So anytime you're betting the under, you're also betting that there's a good possibility that he will not start all 16 games. And I think that is certainly a stronger than average possibility with Josh Allen and the way he puts himself out there. I like your under, even at that low total. I think that's very true. You've got a deep threat to Stephon Diggs, but like you said, you still got to be able to get him the ball. You got to be able to throw that deep ball. And even though this kid can throw the ball through a brick wall, he does struggle with accuracy throwing those mid-range and longer passes. No question.
I mean, the one thing that you have to talk about with injury, you hope this doesn't happen to players because they're rooting for injury. The easiest win last year was Cam Newton under, because he literally played in 2 games, then didn't play for the rest of the year.
Right.
And there's always a chance that all it takes is one hit. We talk about knees and stuff like that. Josh Allen's a fullback. He's a basically playing quarterback who's 6'5" and like 230, 40-something pounds. I feel like you're going to try to tackle him like you try to tackle Gronk. You just go for the knees. And all it takes is one helmet to knee shot, and you pretty much win your under. Of course, you hope it doesn't happen. You hope you win it naturally because you don't root for anyone to get injured.
Never.
Would it surprise you if something like that happened? Probably not.
No, and that's the cardinal rule of football. That knee only bends 2 ways, up and back. It doesn't go side to side. So that's absolutely. All right, I got one more, and then I'll let you finish up.
Yeah, I'll do one more, and then we can wrap it.
Okay. I'm going to go with Gardner Minshew, Scott. I like the stash down there in Jacksonville. They got kind of a low total on him with touchdown passes. They've got 23.5. You can even catch a little plus money at plus 105. I like this kid, and I like even more importantly, I like his receivers. You've got an emerging star in DJ Chark down there, ex-Kansas City Chief Chris Conley, good number 2 receiver. D.D. Westbrook, also a good number 2 receiver. And they added this kid out of Colorado, the Chenault, which he's
when healthy, he's fantastic.
What's that?
When healthy, he's fantastic.
Yes. Another guy that struggled with injuries. But Gardner Minshew, without a lot of these, without Chenault last year, still averaged 101.5 TD passes per start. That works out to 24. I think he's going to be even better this season. Now, the one caveat that I had here reading the Jacksonville page is they also have an interest in Andy Dalton. So I know that you've been an Andy Dalton to New England fan, since you and I have been talking football here, and I think that's probably still the stronger possibility. But if you wanted to take a look at Gardner Minshew and his numbers, I would certainly advise waiting until Andy Dalton and perhaps Cam Newton until those situations got resolved to make sure that Gardner Minshew is going to be your starting quarterback.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the smart move there. These lines aren't going to change anytime soon, so I think you can afford to wait it out. It wasn't actually available on DraftKings. What was the number you gave out for the Minshew?
I didn't have a yardage number, but I had a touchdown number of 23.5.
Okay. Just to address the touchdowns, I love the over.
Okay.
After getting rid of Nick Foles, there's pretty much no quarterback competition on the entire roster. So I think Minshew, this team's going to be terrible. I think this team is going to be the worst team in the entire league in terms of actual record. This team looks poised, if that's the right word, to go 3-13. Maybe destined is the word I should say. This team stinks. I mean, there's no way around this team being terrible. But the one thing you have to notice is that since Foles is gone, Minshew is not in danger of potentially being benched. I don't see that happening. He's a young quarterback. They're going to try to let him develop. This team's going to be bad. It is what it is. And because this team's going to be bad, he might have a Blake Bortles situation where he's throwing garbage time for 200-something yards and he might get a couple of garbage time touchdowns in there. Fun story, the 1 year I won fantasy football, my starting quarterback was Blake Bortles because he kept throwing for 350, 400-something yards because he kept throwing for, I don't know, like 200-something yards in the second half, and they were down 30 every time. That's actually how I won fantasy football. I think this could be the same situation for Minshew. Minshew only played in 14 games last year because Foles started a couple of games, and Minshew still threw 21 touchdowns.
Right.
And I like the receiving core. Chenault, I like, but he can't stay healthy. He reminds me a lot of Kevin White from Chicago, who was supposed to be really good, never stayed healthy in college, couldn't stay healthy in the pros. I think that's going to be pretty much Chenault's career. But if when healthy, he's very good. But either or, Minshew, very good last year. Despite the fact that the team wasn't good at all, he threw for over 3,200 yards. He had 21 touchdowns, 6 picks. I like him also. And I think that since this team's going to be trailing, they should be throwing the ball a lot. And since this team wants to also trade Leonard Fournette, he's the only real threat in the backfield out there. If they trade Fournette, Minshew's going to be launching this ball all over the yard. So for me, I'm going to take the over on that. I agree.
He could certainly have approaching 700 attempts on the season, I think.
Good. And for that reason, I think he could break 4,000. It would not surprise me with that.
God, did you watch The Good Place, the sitcom?
I did not.
Now, I don't know if you know the premise. It's about people that died and went to the afterlife. But anyway, the kid, one of the kids on there, there was this real dumb kid. It was a DJ from Jacksonville, and his all-time sports hero was Blake Bortles.
Okay.
So
fair enough.
Who
are you really going to pick, though? David Garrard? You're going to go with Mark Brunell? Fred Taylor? Jimmy
I love
Mark
Brunell. I'm sorry.
I mean, you're going with Baselli? You're going to pick an offensive lineman who's in the Hall of Fame? Like, I don't know where you're going with Jacksonville on that one.
I know. It was just a weird they made him from Jacksonville, and it's like his favorite player was.
I'd say probably if you're a real Jacksonville fan, you're probably going to go Maurice Jones-Drew. I think that would probably be where your guess would be. But yeah. It's not great. I'll tell you that much. It's not a great situation there.
No, it isn't. All right, Scott, bring us home strong, baby. Give us that last lock for you.
So the last one that I'm going to be talking about involves a team that nobody should like when it comes to actually watching them on a regular basis because of the coaching staff. But I'm going to take Deshaun Watson over 41.5. I know that they lost DeAndre Hopkins, and I understand that that's definitely an issue. I just don't think Houston's going to be that good. And I think that Houston's going to be throwing the ball around all the time as a result. This team, are they great at running the ball? No. Is Watson pretty much the only good player on the entire team now on offense? Yes. I think he's going to chuck the ball all over the field. And I know Fuller can't stay healthy. He's still a pretty good receiver. They got Brandon Cooks, who I think is overpaid to say the least, but I think he's okay.
Overrated.
Yeah, I think he's okay. I mean, he's not exactly amazing by any means. But Watson, 41.50. I know he only threw for 38.50 last year in 15 games. He didn't play a full 16-game season. But for me, it would not surprise me to see the Texans finish the season 8-8, 7-9, and Watson's just doing whatever he can to will this team to life. Kind of like a Russell Wilson situation, but I think it'll be far less successful. I think he'll throw for 4,400, give or take. It would not surprise me to see Watson throw the ball roughly 40 times a game. That would not surprise me.
Wow. Now, see, and I actually had that on my board, and I went the other way. I had the I took the under. What did you have it? I got 41.50.5.
That's what I have exactly on draft.
Okay. Yeah, and I think, and there's a couple of reasons I lean this way. Number one, obviously you touched on it. You can't take away their best receiver and expect for the things for the passing game to get better. They traded for David Johnson, and I think that Bill O'Brien. See, I didn't call him Bill Callahan this time. I think Bill O'Brien is going to want to take every opportunity to prove what a genius he is and show that David Johnson is still the David Johnson of 5 years ago.
Until he gets injured by week 5, of course.
And that's true. And then, of course, they've still got rid of they got rid of Carlos Hyde, but they do still have Duke Johnson. Now they got and they did bring in like I said, they brought in the kid from the kid from the Rams.
Brandon Cooks.
Brandon Cooks. Sorry, I'm getting confused with Kenny Stills.
Hold him overrated. It's fine.
They've got someone who claims to be Randall Cobb on the roster as well, so we'll see how that goes. I don't think there's enough targets, number one, and I don't think this terrible offensive line can keep him upright. They have some real issues there. They've got Laramie Tunstall playing left tackle, and man, that is it for this offensive line. They're going to bring in Zach Fulton, a guy that couldn't keep a role as a backup for the Kansas City Chiefs. That's going to be your starting right guard. They've got Howard playing right tackle. I don't like this line. I think Watson stands a very good chance of getting killed back there, missing multiple games. I like nothing about this total. I think this goes under the total. I'm sorry, buddy.
Yeah, of course you can't really predict injury with Watson again as a mobile quarterback. So if you want to look through that way, you can. It's just a matter of maybe personally, I just love watching Watson play. And I feel like if you bet the under for Watson, it's potentially dangerous territory because Watson is one of those guys who can make something out of nothing on a regular basis. He kind of has that it factor that you look for a quarterback who can extend plays and find ways to actually – I mean, the Buffalo game's a perfect example. He literally put every member of the team on his shoulders and just carried them to victory. I think that he has the ability to at least believe he can do that to make them competitive. Now, the issue you have, I'm not going to bet it personally, is that involves having to deal with Bill O'Brien's play calling, which is a separate animal, not including the actual roster that he created as a GM and what he's done overall to oversee stuff with his timeouts and his terrible challenges. His play calling's abysmal, and the amount of times they run the quarterback sweep on 4th and goal with Watson is just ridiculous. But how about that, though? 3rd and inches, your choices are David Johnson or Duke Johnson. How about that? That's your HB dive up the middle. How do you think they feel?
Johnson and Johnson right there, buddy.
How does that feel? You got a choice between like roughly the 5'9" running back and the 5'10" running back.
It feels like play action trying to find the tight end isolated in the end zone is how that feels.
Potentially. If Fuller can stay healthy, he'll have a big year. Because Fuller's actually good. He's actually never healthy. But he's good.
Well, you know what? We'll find out how good Will Fuller is without DeAndre Hopkins on the other side.
I don't know if he's a number one, but Fuller.
That's the key.
I always liked Fuller, but he's guaranteed to miss roughly 4 games every year.
Yeah, very, very.
Just a thought there. But no, I think it's a matter of talent. Where I look at Watson, I feel like even though they lost everybody, I think this team is going to be trailing a decent amount in the second half. Would it really surprise you to see Watson have a couple of games there with 400-plus passing yards? Probably not. I think that wouldn't be the most surprising thing in the world. So for that reason, I'll lean to the over. I'm not going to play it, but Watson has the talent to easily just burn you. So I'll go with the over.
Well, and here's what a great evaluator of talent I am. When the Chiefs traded up to the 10 spot to take a quarterback, I was extremely disappointed that they took Mahomes instead of Watson.
Well, we talked about this before. We agreed on that. I thought Watson was a can't-miss prospect. And even though we both have looked correct in the sense that Watson has been a can't-miss prospect because he's been remarkable, I don't think anybody expected Mahomes to be on pace to be one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. I mean,
it was a system guy. It was a gimmick player.
You can't really argue though that I think Mahomes is clearly right now the number one quarterback in the entire league.
Clearly,
I think you can make a case for Watson to potentially be top 5. He's guaranteed top 10.
That's what I was going to ask you. Who would you like right now, Scott? Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson? Two similar quarterbacks.
I'm taking Wilson. I think Wilson is the most underrated quarterback of all time. If I'm being completely honest. Watson has a lot of characteristics that remind me of Wilson, where you can surround him with absolute garbage, and he'll find a way to make plays to actually keep you in a ball game. And that's a rare characteristic that you find from quarterbacks. But Wilson's been doing it for so long. You look at Seattle on paper with that offensive line, he probably should have gotten killed roughly 4 years ago. And he finds a way to make the playoffs every year. Now, I think Russell Wilson, in terms of making his teammates better and to make something out of nothing, I think Wilson might be the greatest improviser in the history of football from a quarterback perspective. I think he's actually that good.
I'm sorry, Fran Tarkenton's on the other line.
Fran Tarkenton's also up there. I think that's definitely a fair point. But I think you can agree Wilson is definitely on another level when it comes to improvisation.
I do agree. And, of course, and 3/4 of our audience right now is going, who? So, there's that as well.
He didn't win a Super Bowl? He's terrible? What happened? No, he was actually really good. That's something to keep in mind if you're a football historian. I think you can make the comparison between Russell Wilson and Tarkenton. If you really wanted to, from a pocket perspective and running around like a chicken without its head, you can make that argument. Yeah. I think Wilson is tremendous. And I think people, because he plays in Seattle and how Richard Sherman, the Legion of Boom, might have rubbed some people the wrong way, they forgot how good he was on the other side of the ball. And that interception from Malcolm Butler didn't help. But I think Wilson is the most underrated quarterback of all time. And I would love to have Wilson any day of the week as my quarterback. I would feel really good about my chances if he was my quarterback on Sunday.
Okay, very good.
Are we in agreement?
All right, man. Any last minute thoughts here on the quarterback situation before we move on?
I'm actually looking through this briefly. We didn't mention them, but I have to mention the Browns. I don't really have any thoughts on Baker Mayfield, especially with a new coordinator. It's at roughly 38-75. It's a pass for me. This team has so many weapons, but I'm a firm believer, especially with Stefanski, now the former Vikings offensive coordinator. One thing that that he'll love to do with Minnesota, he'll love to run the ball. He'll love to play action.
That zone run scheme that he unveiled up there in Minnesota.
If I was Cleveland, I would run Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, not in that order, into the ground. I think Nick Chubb is the most talented player on the entire offense, including Odell, including Jarvis. If this team is going to do well, Chubb needs to run for roughly 1,300-plus yards. So for me, I know the weapons are there, and I know that Cleveland could potentially have some garbage time passing yards with whatever. I'd probably lean under for Mayfield just because I think the system benefits the running scheme, and I think Chubb is going to go off this year. So I'm feeling more confident in Chubb playing well than Mayfield playing well. So I'll lean to the under on Mayfield. Are we on the same page on that one?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a couple of people on that offense that are overrated. I think one of them is Baker Mayfield. I think the other one's Kareem Hunt. We could see a few years of Kareem Hunt here in Kansas City. And, he's a fine plug-and-play running back. He is not an elite running back like Nick Chubb.
Well, he doesn't need to be. He's a third down guy. So he's the perfect guy for that system.
Yeah, he's a good pass catcher out of the backfield. I would say he's very similar to, if you wanted to comp with Damian Williams, the current running back in Kansas City. Again, not elite, certainly high average, I would call Kareem Hunt, but definitely not a game changer. But I think Baker Mayfield, has been overrated since day one, and I like him. I think I like the kid. He's got a little fire in him. He's got a little spit in his eye, as the old timers used to say. But I think that his lack of talent is catching up with him.
There's a lack of size out of anything.
What's that?
There's a lack of size that also doesn't help when you have to see over these 6'5" mammoth human beings on the offense and defensive line. It's going to hurt your vision if you're roughly 6'2".
Well, you know what though? But you just spent 5 minutes extolling the value of Russell Wilson.
No, that's the point. What I'm saying is that some quarterbacks who have had success already, can handle it. The point is, if some quarterbacks who are shorter have struggled so far in their careers, I don't really think that they're suddenly going to piece it together. That's what I'm saying.
No, I agree with that. I don't see the
that was the point I was trying to make from a comparison.
Yeah. I think that I don't know how long it's going to be before Cleveland comes to that conclusion. I think you're going to need at least probably 2 more bad years of Baker Mayfield. What do you think? I don't think they pull the plug even if he has a horrible year this year. I think
I agree. Would you agree though that in order for Cleveland to be successful, Chubb needs to touch the ball roughly 23 times a game?
Yes. Yeah, I was going to say, I was wondering what number you're going to pull, because 25 is a little high.
20 is a little too low. I
think
23 sounds right.
Exactly right. Yeah, I think that's about right. I think you give Kareem Hunt 6 or 7 touches, you give Nick Chubb 23 touches, and you hang on to your hat. And
I think Chubb can lead the league in rushing. I'm going to say that right now. I think there's a chance.
If they focus that way, if that's what they wanted to do, yes. Now we'll see. If Stefanski runs this the zone rush scheme that he ran in Minnesota, it's not the easiest thing to learn. It's not the easiest thing to learn for an offensive line. So we'll see how that goes, because this could be an entirely different looking offense, certainly from a rushing perspective. So we'll see how that goes. I'm not touching any totals on this team.
I'm passing. There's no way that I could take this. It's just a matter. I still like the Browns as a team, though. I actually think they're going to be decent this year, and I believe we ended up doing the roundup there, or the win total coverage, and I believe we all leaned to the over on that one.
Where were they at? 7.5, 6.5? Where were they?
It was definitely higher than that. I believe it was 8. I think it might have been 8.5 for like.
Was it really?
I think so. But we all leaned to the over. I don't know. We like the offensive line. They got Jack Conklin, which definitely should help. And I mean, maybe I just think Stefanski's going to realize, especially after Freddie Kitchens inexcusably seemed to have some type of personal vendetta against Nick Chubb, even though he was clearly the best player on the team. He just didn't get the ball. I don't really know why, but give Chubb the ball. It'll save you a ton of headaches. That's my advice for you, Cleveland. Just give him the ball. It's really not that hard.
Hand him the damn ball, to paraphrase Keyshawn Johnson. All right.
It's a shame Keyshawn wasn't exactly good enough to make those type of claims. He thought he was good enough. He was basically a possession wide receiver. But, I mean, it's one thing if T.O. or somebody says something like that.
Right.
Keyshawn, like, relax. Like, relax a little bit. They're going to throw you the ball on third down, not much on first and second down. It's fun, You
have been a Jets fan for a while.
Well, I mean, he was also on the Cowboys, so I saw him play a decent amount. I mean, most of the diva stuff with him involved Tampa, where he just went off the rails, besides writing the book with the Jets, which is a separate.
I was going to say, he wrote the book when he was in New York.
Yeah, he wrote the book in New York, and then he went to Tampa, and he somehow had issues despite winning a Super Bowl, I believe. Didn't he win a Super Bowl with Tampa?
I think he was on that Gruden team, right?
Yeah, with Brad Johnson at the quarterback spot. But if you were causing issues and you just won a Super Bowl, you're a diva. Congratulations. I think that's basically a good way to describe it.
Good point. All right. Well, bud, we're done with quarterbacks. What are we going to do? Maybe tackle a few running back prompts next. What do you want to do?
I think running backs sound good to me. We can go through some yards, potentially some touchdowns. Touchdowns are almost impossible to do, and some books don't even offer props on that. So I think we're mostly going to be focusing on yards because I think that's a little bit easier to predict. But yeah, we'll do what we did last time. We'll do the NFC first.
All right, sounds like a winner. Of course, we have tomorrow off. Anything else you want to say before we get out of here?
We're gonna have tomorrow off, but the award video that I did on the NFL in the upcoming season, which I did a couple days ago, should be uploaded tomorrow. So there will be a video uploaded to the channel tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. Other than that, though, get your hat ready, get your virtual program ready. We got Secretariat to bet on. So
in less than an hour from right now, from when we're taping, that will be live with NBC and their virtual Kentucky Derby with the Triple Crown winners from throughout history. That should be a lot of fun. It's also the Arkansas Derby Day. If you prefer your horses on the live side, there's plenty to bet over there. So everybody have a great weekend. We thank you for stopping by and joining us. Have a safe, happy, family-friendly weekend. As always, you know what? Stay well, stay safe, stay home. We're going to get through it, guys. We're coming down the home stretch here. I really feel like we're going to learn a lot in the month of May about where we're going to be with sports. So hopefully a month from now, we'll be talking about who's going to be opening up and where, and we're going to have more than virtual sports to bet on. Until then, you guys take care. Everybody stay safe. We appreciate you watching. We couldn't do it without you. For myself, for Scott Reichel, for everybody over at Winners and Winers. By the way, don't forget to stop by and check out winnersandwiners.com. All their great content. They are writing fantastic articles on all the stuff that's currently available to bet, as well as taking a look at some future stuff as well. So stop by winnersandwiners.com and our sister site, statsalt.com as well. For all of us here, wishing you guys the very, very best. Again, thanks very much for joining us. We'll see you next time. Have a great day. Take care.